So week 5 in the NFL was just weird, yet it might tell you more about the Eagles than you think. Plus you got the Broncos celebrating their Super Bowl, the Giants adding fuel to the fire, and Dallas just giving them the middle finger. Alright, in this video, I'll share why that bulletin board material will backfire, go over a couple injury updates on players out for the Birds, and discuss this idea of bringing in an offensive consultant. So let's talk about that and everything else, but first, let's run it. What's up guys? First, I want to start with a huge thank you because the channel just passed 142,000 subscribers. Obviously, could not do it without you guys, but where this thing's gone is just crazy. And on that note, week 5 in the NFL was pretty crazy too. Or maybe weird is the better way to describe it. I mean, sure, I know the Eagles blew a double-digit lead and allowed the Broncos to score 18 unanswered, but in case you weren't aware, there were more double-digit comebacks in week 5 than there had been the rest of the season combined. Yeah, the 14-point deficit Denver overcame to beat Philly, along with the 10-point early spot the Commanders fell down to against the Chargers. Plus, the Saints were down 11, but rallied to beat the Giants by 12. However, the really improbable comebacks had to be Carolina trailing by 17 points before turning things around in the second half against Miami. And then the almost video game-like glitches that happened to Jonathan Gannon's Cardinals against the Titans to blow an 18-point lead. I mean, between a would-be touchdown into a touchback, and then I don't even know what you'd call the pick, fumble, touchdown transition, but you totally get why JG was beside himself after the game.
Thank you, God. This will bring us so much joy.
Again, I know the Eagles lost, and it may be hard to find a silver lining, but you can't deny what's happening around the entire league. Heck, the Chiefs botched a 14-point lead to somehow miraculously play the onlooker and let the Jaguars walk in and walk off with a dub. Which, by the way, ended a Kansas City streak of 23 straight games that Andy Reid and company had won when leading by 14-plus points at any moment in any game. Oh, also, courtesy of the Bills and Ravens losses as well, Week 5 marked the first time the Chiefs, Bills, and Ravens all lost in the same week since 2017.
I told you, something really weird is happening.
It is, yeah, because you look at the standings and there's not a single undefeated team. The Ravens are 1-4, the Chiefs are 2-3, and the San Francisco 49ers are leading the NFC West. Like, come on, there's now been 17 games this season with go-ahead scores in the final minute of regulation. For those counting, that's the most through 5 weeks of a season since the 1970 merger.
What does that mean?
Honestly, and I tried to think about this, but I think what it tells you is there's no complete teams in the NFL, at least right now, there's no complete teams. You could argue Detroit, maybe they're probably the closest, but even they had the loss to the Packers early in the season. Right now, teams are just trying to find their identity. And now, okay, when it comes to Philly, yeah, there's some serious answers they're searching for. Because it's almost unbelievable, but the Eagles lead the league with a 3-and-out percentage of 47% on their drives. FYI, that's worse than the Tennessee Titans and Cincinnati Bengals, who are the second and third worst respectively.
Pass.
Also, shout out to Zack Berman, and alright, it's only been 5 games, but that would be the worst 3-and-out percentage since 2005, with the last team to put up those numbers being the 49ers, but they finished that season 4-12.
We're finished!
Yards per play has tanked. Saquon Barkley's getting touched a yard into the carry, not 2.5. So this is not on the players. The players were great last year. What did they do? All eat Twinkies in the offseason? Give me a break. It's a coordinator hire. And in times of crisis, you have to go back to your identity. And the Eagles' identity is pretty obvious. Last 2 years, they're 12-0 when they throw fewer than 25 times. Run the damn ball and be physical. It's not complicated.
If only it were that easy. Yeah, you know, it sounds simple. Just run the ball. I mean, last season did have some better design, and I think Philly will make those adjustments, but it also didn't matter what was called at times. Let's face it, the O-line in the running game was just better and unstoppable. So adding the fact that you got a banged-up O-line, Saquon's partially injured, he'll be okay, but partially injured, and then teams keying off of Saquon, it's no wonder it's been tougher sledding this season. Still though, they've beaten some really tough teams, and they're 4-1, so the sky is not falling. Yet as is the case for any Super Bowl champion, there's an extra target on your back, evidenced by how much the Broncos celebrated after beating the Birds this past weekend.
When you play a team like that, it's never going to be perfect. But, man, not once did we flinch. And that's what you have to do to beat a team like that. And you did it.
He's talking to the driver of the bus, and he's telling them, hey, why don't we actually go down Broad Street and let them see the team bus come through this city again? They ended up just going to the original route. This one meant more. I think this was a career-defining and regime-defining moment for Sean Payton as, hey, I'm no longer just a Saints guy. I am a Broncos head coach, and we're doing it.
Well, okay then. That's kind of a surprise, but good for them. Let's just go ahead and hang the banner on that one, I guess, for a Week 5 Super Bowl champion win. Look, it's a quality win, but to celebrate like that, especially wanting to drive down Broad Street, the celebration, the smoke in the locker room, everything else there for a Sean Payton team, it just tells you what other teams and how they're going to view Philly the rest of the year. You have that target on your back. But don't worry, the Giants this week, there's plenty of opportunity, and I'll get into the exact specifics for how the Birds can take advantage and get right versus them in my game preview video next. However, what I will share right now is that seeing Brian Daboll try to stir up a little extra drama for the Eagles, telling reporters in his press conference on Tuesday, yeah, man, I watched the film and AJ is open a lot.
Don't do that.
Sorry, but he knows exactly what he's doing by saying that. Just like Dallas radio host Sean Sharif tried to stir up something on Twitter by tweeting a response to the good news in reference to the meeting between Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, and AJ Brown on Monday, saying that he's been told Hurts is a huge pain to deal with and that he wonders how much the meeting had to do with Saquon and AJ being affected by QB1's personality. Obviously, real ones know that's total BS, but these things can go one of two ways. One, you can let it negatively affect you, or two, you rally around it, and this kind of works in Philly's favor. And personally, having seen what we have from the Eagles this last year, I think they're going to make them pay and use it as fuel. I mean, I don't know why you'd try and poke the bear there. It's like, look, you say what you do there, but the Eagles players see it, and they're smart enough to recognize what it is. So it's like, all right, fine, you want to start this? Okay, we're here for it.
Yeah, we had a conversation, but I'm not going to speak too much on it. I feel like that conversation is meant to stay between us, but focus was all about the team.
That's just us talking about the collective, talking about taking ownership for what we can, and talking about how we move forward as a team so we continue to find ways to win games.
These dudes are winners and will literally do just about anything to get it done. For example, when Jalen Hurts tried to catch his own Hail Mary on what would have been one of the craziest plays in NFL history. So yeah, in case you missed it, after the Eagles offense stalled out along with the defense giving up 18 unanswered points to give Denver a 21-17 lead, Philly got down to the Denver 29-yard line before Jalen Hurts attempted to make one of the most ridiculous plays ever, as QB1 launched the ball on a Hail Mary and then could be seen sprinting to the end zone to try and catch the pass. Of course, yeah, watching it back, Jalen was a good 15 to 20 yards away when the ball got there. Although judging by the past weekend of ridiculous plays in the NFL, you got to give him credit for never giving up on the play. Honestly, the fact that he even thought to do it is pretty insane. However, I think it just speaks to the mindset of the only thing that matters is winning because, come on, the guy hates to lose. Heck, after the failed attempt, that was the first loss that Hurts had suffered at home in over a calendar year.
You never know. I hate to lose.
Are you closer to that?
No, that's just you never know. Never know.
It may not have worked this time, but if you doubted it before, you see what Jalen meant when he said he doesn't care how it looks, all that matters is winning. Anyway, speaking of winning, the Eagles are 4-1, but if they are going to get where we want them to go, they have got to be more assertive, which is why the reactiveness approach for waiting to see what the defense is doing that Nick Sirianni suggested in his latest presser was a bit frustrating to hear. I've said it before, but this team is way too talented to let other squads dictate terms. Honestly, look, talk is cheap. The real litmus test will be the Giants. This week coming up, shortened week, you want to prove everyone wrong. There's no reason that New York should be hanging around at all. So dictate terms, take control, don't let them hang around. At the same time, for those asking about coaching changes, it would take a cataclysmic fall off for anything to change an offensive coordinator. Now, possibly the hypothetical there is you go down the route of bringing in an offensive consultant. And yes, I've heard a lot of you in the comments section and social media trying to suggest Mike McDaniel. But I'm not even sure I'd want him, and especially when it comes to bringing in new coaches mid-season, that would be a terrible idea. Seriously, I know that most of you are talking about it for an offensive consultant, which is fine, but in a mid-season transition for a legit different offensive coordinator, for those suggestions out there, that one is wild. It never works in the middle of the season unless we want to just say, hey, we're punting on this year, it's over. Like I say, though, that's a conversation that's really much further down the road, or at least I hope it is. Although, according to Tony Pauline, Dolphins ownership is reportedly losing patience with head coach Mike McDaniel, and the end of his tenure in Miami could be sooner than people realize. So fine, reading that and thinking about it a bit more, I will admit that when it comes to a slow operation like Philly has and one that's been struggling there, it definitely couldn't hurt to add a guy who frequently uses tempo and motion with his offenses. Still, ultimately, the hope is we don't have to go there and Thursday we turn a corner. Because KP's apparently been working extra hard this week to come up with some new wrinkles for the team to be ready for on Thursday.
As far as coaches yesterday, it was pretty much all day. We didn't get very much sleep last night, I'll say that. We were up pretty much all night. If we got 2 to 3 hours of sleep, it was a good night. So what you have to do is you really have to rely on essentially what you're seeing from them defensively and or what you know we can lean into and do. And you do want to add some wrinkles, right? Because that's what makes it important to have in a game plan. To just kind of counteract what they may be doing. So I think in Thursday night games and early games like this, there's a little bit of a feel kind of like, okay, how much are they putting into game planning versus just being who they are and vice versa. So I think there's a little bit of back and forth with that.
It's like, having all the same ingredients, but having a different chef in the kitchen. I think that's kind of what it's been for us over the years. And, you can have the same ingredients and, somebody can make the same dish and it tastes different. And so ultimately, the whole objective collectively as a group is to go out there and find ways to win. And that's changed in how we've been able to do that over the years. And we're navigating that, but, again, you got to look inward, right? What can we control? How can we master our detail? How can we be better with the things that we can control? Mastering the things that take no talent, and that's what Coach Sirianni is always talking about. And so that's always a day-by-day grind, and we're focused on that, and I sense that. And so I'm happy we have another opportunity to go out here on a short week and go out there and play, and we're all for one and one for all on this thing.
The belief is still there 100%. And by the way, if you didn't get to check out Jalen Hurts' press conference, I highly recommend you go check it out because he was open, he was honest, sharing the thoughts on the Eagles' offense, what they need to improve on. And I just don't get the sense that there's any doubt that they're going to turn this thing around. All right, for now, let's get you caught up on the latest injury news, where shout out to Jeff McClain, but Saquon Barkley's knee is expected to be ready for Thursday, as I also mentioned in Monday's video. However, McClain also reported that it sounds like Landon Dickerson could miss the next 1 to 2 games with an ankle injury, and Grant Calcaterra, who's dealing with an oblique, is unlikely to be ready to go Thursday. Which, first off, never wish injuries on anybody, so prayers that they heal up, they rehab well, but that could be a blessing in disguise for 2 reasons. 1, because we've been seeing it and saying it, but Landon needs time to rest and heal up. And 2, because Grant Calcaterra being out might finally force the Eagles to run 11 personnel and or go empty on offense. Remember, they're a top 5 offense when they go in those formations or when they use those formations. We're talking about 11 personnel and going empty. Anyway, on the defensive side, it sounds like there's a slight chance we get Nakobe Dean back, with Fangio saying that we'll see by late Wednesday. However, even if he was cleared, Fangio said he'd play a very limited role for at least a couple weeks since he's missed so much time. Also, Fangio did say, for those who are wondering or questioning, any concern about Quinyon Mitchell's play, that he was not concerned. Not really surprising there, but just officially, Fangio made it on the record. Although, when asked about the pass rush, his response was a bit contrarian.
The production or the stack numbers are what it is. I do think the ball's coming out fairly quick a lot. I think sack numbers, when you eliminate the big games that some teams have, are down overall in the last few years. The guys have been rushing good enough. We just haven't gotten there.
He's had a pretty big workload in his first game. What sort of impression did he make on you?
Yeah, he made some nice plays out there for a guy that hadn't played at all in the regular season. So that was encouraging.
Was that the plan, to play him that much, or was that something because he played well?
Yeah, I think it was, kind of both. But when he was going, when he made a couple plays, keep him in there.
Obviously, it's Fangio, and I'm going to trust him. It's not like we're listening to Kevin Patullo or Nick Sirianni. But at the same time, I'm thinking here, one, it's either the fact that he's saying we have slight tweaks, and maybe they can make some improvements because we're seeing it. You and I are seeing the production or the lack of production. So maybe some slight tweaks. He sees some promise. Hopefully, we see that transition and play out on Thursday. Or he's just recognizing that no matter who you go out and get, it's going to take multiple weeks to get them caught up to speed. So at this point, you have what you have, and you're going to make do with it. I don't know. Either way, I'm with those of you who'd like to see some more sack numbers, even though, yes, I know it's not always about just the sack totals. By the way, reading between the lines here, it does seem like Kelee Ringo will get another opportunity to start on Sunday.
What went in the decision to start Ringo?
That was a combination that he had played good enough the previous week. Dory, was just coming off his injury. So it was a combination of both.
You sticking with him?
Possibly. We got to make a decision between those two, and I think Kelee's done well. I mean, at the minimum, they could both play.
We'll see. Maybe not the best options in the world, but if you had to choose, are you starting Kelee Ringo or are you starting Adoree Jackson? Let me know in the comments. It's also a good question to ask about how many of the Giants guys they're going to have on Thursday, because you look at the injury report, they had 4 guys who did not participate in practice. They have 5 of those who are limited, and then Jackson Dart was officially back to a full participant. However, out of all of those, the starting offensive lineman in Jermaine Elamagnour is probably the biggest impact maker, although if you listen to Brian Daboll this week, it does sound like he's believing he'll get a chance to play on Thursday. But I'll have that final official update in the game preview video, so keep an eye out for that one. Again, another giveaway. Imagine that, but yes, we'll have a big giveaway announcement for that one as well. And thank you guys for 142. Cannot thank you enough, only possible because of you guys. We'll see you on the next one. This has been the Philly Special.
Like I should